horrible. Oh God, the lighting is horrible. Okay, I guess I don't really care what the lighting looks like. Thing about being a monk, you don't have to worry about makeup or anything. All right, so um, you're 29. Yeah, you've indicated you haven't had a lot of relationships. So,
Well, I've been in like 3 or 4 relatively long-term and serious relationships.
mm, okay, we got two problems. Number one, it's weird. People are weird nowadays, trying to dance the dance of the relationship, to the cordiality, the romanticism, the initial stages of getting to know each other, the first 3 months, going out. Who are you? Tell me about your life. Tell me about your family. Like, it's hard to get people to get come out of their head, living in their head. And like I said earlier, this book literally is on the shelf, and it says how to unbeep yourself at Barnes and Noble. Really. And I was like, oh my God, we have titles like that nowadays. There's kids walking around in here. But underneath the title, it says how to get out of your head and start living your life. And Alex is just a really severe case of that. A severe case of, number one, he had wrong thoughts, wrong views to begin with. So when he was being corrected, he reverted inwards instead of challenging it with me. Challenging it with me. Um, so the second thing is, if you don't do your homework right in regards to getting to know people, and if you choose the wrong one, you will find out very quickly how much peace you crave when you have found the wrong one. One of my assistant here, which I won't use the name because I just don't want, in case the assistant's girlfriend is listening or their family's listening, but this poor kid, my assistant are typically, by virtue, they're like saints already. Not because by virtue of serving me or serving the Sangha, but they're just these innocent little darlings running around. They know absolutely nothing because they just hatched out of an egg. So this assistant gets to know this girl, and she traumatized them. And here's the game, which you all have probably went through. The game was, with the evidence that came in, suggested that she used them. She used them for money, and eventually, when things didn't work out, I don't know, maybe a year later or something like that, they play the uh, suicide game, and then brought in family members to tell the kid, yeah, she's gonna commit suicide. I'm on the phone with my students, so it'll be about an hour and a half when I'm free. So now I asked the students in college, and I says, you're in college with a bunch of baddies, 10 out of 10 baddies, because it's college life, partying and girls and sex and all this other stuff, worldly pleasure, all up in there. He said, no, I'm just trying to get through my school. That's how much she traumatized them. Likewise, there is a different kind of evil out there, where people manipulate and they vengeful, revengeful out there. So it does kind of suck. This is my area that I dive into and try to figure it out so I can bring back to you all the latest available information for you all to make an informed choice to go find a partner. Just because you're studying Buddhism with me doesn't mean that I'm barring you from loving another human being. It's my job to actually aid and assist you in that. Ah, but so far, I find it very challenging. And then, of course, you try to date online, and they try to catfish you, which is that it's not the true image of themselves. They inflate, the resume is not what it seems. And so you have to become a detective. This is the same word we used last week, a detective of the mind. And now you have to be a detective of their mind. That knowing to how to, number one, know how to investigate your own mind so that you are calm, collective, and see things objectively without subjective feelings that could color your lens. Because, that word love and lust happens really fast, especially if they fit your typology of target, aim, nationality, uh, color, gender, sex, orientation, whatever. Right? Soon, everyone's got the type that they're after, or their subconscious type that the mind is after. so, so you have to really think about this clearly before you make the next choice. Um, Walking alone. I'd rather walk alone than to walk with fools, and for how long? Or I'd rather walk alone because not everyone lasts forever. So this is a very difficult balance to strike. So that's why I'm trying to get through this with you all as fast as possible, so that you all know who you are, know what you want, where you want to go, who you want to go with. That's my goal. That's my aim for everybody. Right? It's not my job to say no. You join my group. You join School of Jidao. You all must ordain as a bhikkhu and bhikkhuni after so many years with me, and you must charge forward and take lead and lead the flock of ignorance towards enlightenment. My hope for all of you is actually to find another saint. You yourself a saint. Find yourself another saint. And you know what? The funny part is I keep on using this saint over the past year. And when I'm bored, I go and listen to other faith leader like Bishop Barron. Everybody knows Bishop Barron, Catholic bishop. He's got it going on with social media. I mean, he's more social media than I am. On top of that, when he's giving talks in the Bible, he's wearing this huge gold chain, huge Jesus chain around it. And I'm like, yeah, you got it going on. I'm just waiting for you to put the whole cape and everything, just like Bishop Fulton Sheen. Anyone see Bishop Fulton Sheen? Oh, he lives it. Oh, he lives the life of a bishop. The image, especially the outer image of a life of a bishop. He's got the cape on and everything. I mean, that man is like, too bad he didn't become pope, because if he was pope, he was just decked out. And there's popes that wear gold chains because you can, because now you're the pope. And then, of course, you have Pope Francis, who is very humble. He wears the same silver cross that he started out with towards the end. So I was just like, okay, you got, whenever they start flashing gold chains, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But Bishop Barron talks about coming back to the spiritual life and look at all the saints and try to aim to be like them. Not as in a world-class saint or something like that, or world-known saint or anything like that, but the holiness of it, the living out the holy life. Isn't that funny? The Buddha says the same thing, living out the holy life. And here you are, you have different faiths and traditions out there suggesting to do the same, because everyone is so lost in a very lost world right now, very lost, lonely world. The last movie, Conclave. Everyone's gonna think I'm pushing everybody to be Catholic today. The last movie, Conclave, the subsequent, you seen that movie? Yes, ma'am. The one to be Pope, which nobody ever thought when he walked in, that last cardinal that walked in, the cardinal of somewhere in Bangladesh or something like that, his archbishop in that region, when he prayed, dear Father, da, 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 then he paused, and everyone's like, oh, well, what a generic prayer. Like, everyone knows that. And he's like, well, he sounds like a priest on his first day. Until he added, may we keep those in mind, the sick, the dying, the poor, the lonely. And when he says the lonely, it caught my cousin and I's attention, and we looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, who is this man? Yeah, they thought this through when they made this movie, and they thought every word through. Every word through. The sick, the dying, the poor, the lonely. No different than Buddhism, the first noble truth. Death, dying, sickness, disease, decay. Right? The lonely. So this is something that we all have to embrace together to fight through the loneliness. You know, I thought this through also too for all of you. Why did we started studying the life of the Buddha? So you wouldn't have to walk alone in loneliness. You're walking with him. You're walking with the Buddha. If you all feel this way, do you not think I also feel this way? Do you think that I'm here? As a matter of fact, any one of you can go to the strip club anytime you want. Do you think I can go to the strip club? And they'll be like, oh, you're the guy on TikTok. What are you doing in here? Oh, I don't know, just hanging out, you know, having a drink. Someone buy me a drink, you know. So, you know, being a holy man is that we have to deal with our loneliness in a very unique way. How do you think these priests in their room, silent with one cross on the wall, how do they deal with it? With their own loneliness. You know what they do? They get on their knees every night and they pray. Furthermore, not only they pray, like the Franciscans, they take like a rod and they beat themselves really hard. They inflict pain onto their bodies. Why? Or some of them deal with physical pain, severe physical pain, like diagnosis pain, and they embrace it with such heroism because now they get to feel what Christ feels. Every pain, sorrow, and misery that a priest feels, he now knows what it's like, what Christ feels when they hung Christ on the cross, when they beat him, when they hit him, when they cussed at him, when they tormented him, when they prosecuted him, and subsequently killed him. So when we look at those types of examples of people who've lived out the holy life in such a way, in such a traumatic way, those are dramatic and very deep sense. I study these saints, the ones that, you know, the sisters that became saints, and you know how they went through. Yeah. So it's, you know, again, remind yourself and to come forward when you do feel lonely. And like I said, that's why the life of Christ is so meaningful, and the life of Buddha is so meaningful. These are two top major religions around the world. Top religion. There are religions out there that you don't even want to know. You don't even know. You don't want to even know what they believe in. You don't even know what they worship. It's super duper weird. They do not qualify to be top religions of the world, but we are. But it is through the richness of the story of the Buddha, you know, how he dealt with just so much complicated situations with individuals, situations that led to the Dhamma being so difficult to decipher. Because, you know, to imagine 2,500 years ago, people, you know, were simple, but sometimes we're not simple. We're simple and we're not simple. If the Buddha had to repeat himself over and over and over again, that means in your next relationship, you two have to also repeat over and over and over again with your partner. And the way you love them, and if they don't reciprocate back to you, boy, is it going to test your enlightenment. You wake up next to them, you kiss them, I love you, baby. Have a good day at work. You come home, hi, baby, how's your day? And they don't reciprocate. How do you deal with that? So everything here prepares you for that. In case you guys ever, you guys are all young faces. Jorge's in a relationship right now that's driving him crazy. But you guys are all young, and eventually you guys are going to go out there and you guys are going to test your enlightenment, right? After I say, I think I feel that you're ready, go out there and let them push your buttons. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to push your buttons. And I can't, some of the stories that I hear catering to Gen Zs and Alphas, oh my God. Students in their 20s, how she comes over and lay next to him. She's trying to hug him. She's trying to get her needs met. And he goes, get the off me. Like 2 a.m. Some of the stories that they tell, and I'm like, Oh, goodness gracious. What is happening over there right now? So, yeah. So, just rest assured that we're trying to figure this out all together. This is a think tank. This is a psychological, scientific think tank coming together using the best available science we know, understanding our mind, understanding loneliness has been killing a lot of people, particularly men. And the pandemic of loneliness has been going over the past like 50 years. Severe over the past 50 years, striking humans. So many books on loneliness. And you raised your hand. You raised your hand, Leo.
Yeah, but I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah, and I even struggle to, and the things that prevents all of us in coming together as a sangha is you have different people from different backgrounds, and it's my job to try to match like-minded and age-wise and level of understanding for our group to be sufficient enough so that you don't feel lonely and you feel a good support sense. But there are groups that has to be classified in certain groups of that group, and I can't mix certain group with this group because they're just in a different plane of understanding, different level of understanding. They're in the zone. We are in a different classification of zone. The other young ones or the other older ones, they're dealing with some things right now that is too heavy, too clinically heavy to be in here. So yeah, it's my, and I was invited to church, but it's not traditional church, spiritual church. And they got the singing, they got the dancing, and they got the reverends talking about, it's kind of like Eckhart Tolle type church, the spirituality type church, unity type church. And and my job there is to also observe how they do things, the rituals, the music, the things that eases people into to what is happening. Now, this one reverend is quite deep, actually. He's actually very skilled. This man is equivalent to someone who has a doctor in divinity. I'm sorry, a D-Min, doctor of ministry, actually. Just the way how he runs it, definitely knows how to run it. He knows how to run a church. But I'm just wondering around me whether they actually get the point. It puts it out there in multiple paragraphs, but each paragraph is quite deep. It's no different than the book that we're reading out of. And I'm just wondering if they get it or not. So, whatever we're going through here, just make sure that your next partner is ready and that they're on the same page. And one thing is for sure, for guaranteed love to last, for love to last with you and your partner that you choose, it is for sure and for certain the first element needs to be ruled out. And the first element needs to be installed, which is the first noble truth. In the case of Alex, is that him and his partner did not internalize the first noble truth, thus leading to a world of hurt. So whoever you love, make sure that, once the fun is out of the way and you sit there dinner or a place to talk, like, I don't know, out in the water by the lake, it's a great time to hint to them. You know what? Over the past couple of months and leading up, 4 or 5 months now of knowing you, I really had a great time, and I'm still having a great time. And I'm wondering if we're going to get serious with this, of which it looks like it will. I'm wondering if you know what human suffering is, and whether you see that in yourself and you see that in me. And that's where it's going to get real deep, and that's where you really got to pay attention within that hour. Because if they say yes, they need to provide examples of it. And this is how you know that whether they're most likely going to do harm to you or not. Because if they see suffering in themselves and you, there is no possible way a reasonable, prudent person can inflict intentional harm to you. Right? Then it leads to safety, security, and then it develops into trust. So the first noble truth is important on the application of love in regards to that aspect. So just know that I am installing skills and the necessary conversations for you all to go there, to get there. All right, man. Phew. Leo opened up a whole can of worm there. Yes, Leo, go ahead with raising your hands.
Yeah, I had a thought about loneliness, but just to explain what's happening on my end, I was just told by a neighbor that my roommate's car light is on. And, oh, shoot. Okay. And I'm on a mission to turn it off. Hopefully I can be. But I can explain my thought. Well,
you're cutting out. You're cutting out. You get done with that. We'll jump back to you when you come back inside.
Okay.
Miss Christine, go ahead. With your past couple days, post-Christmas?
Evening, everybody. Forgive me, I'm a little under the weather. Houston is extremely bipolar. It's going from 40, 50, 60, 70, raining, cold, windy, you name it, in less than 4 days. But I'm doing okay. The last couple of days have been decent with work. And yesterday I went to meditation at the Watts, able to spend some time there. I hadn't seen everyone since before the holidays, so it was nice to gather with everyone at the community area at the temple. They received a statue of the first abbot. It was kind of a little bit scary because when I walked in, I thought it was an actual live monk just sitting there meditating with his eyes open because it was that lifelike. They received it from Thailand, so it was just interesting to see that. And then did some meditation, so it was nice to get that back in the routine. And then I spent some time with my cousin. He flew in from Alaska. I don't get to see him as often anymore because he lives in Alaska, so it was nice to spend time with him. His grandmother and my grandmother were sisters, so and we just kind of was talking about family stuff, and it kind of reminded me of the question I brought up on Thursday, Venerable, because he had asked me "Hey, was your grandma mean? Because your great aunt Dorothy, she got a mean streak. She's ruthless in her old age." And I was like, well, I was told that. So just different childhood memories and stuff like that. So that was nice to catch up with him before he goes back to Alaska. And then I spent this morning with my mother, and I actually got a chance to ask her in regards to the questions that I mentioned on Thursday about why did my dad stop spending time with me when I was younger, and why I felt like sometimes my grandmother didn't like me. I wasn't for sure if it was just me because of my skin tone, and I wasn't as light as my other siblings and nieces. So to get some clarity from her and how she felt it as a perspective, because she felt that way sometimes too from her own mother. So it just kind of brought some things full circle. And she kind of broke things down to say, I don't necessarily think it was you. I think it was just her old age. And we think that my grandmother probably was battling dementia long before we knew that she had it. So from the 90s up until when we moved to Texas was 2004, but we didn't necessarily, we just thought, oh, well, grandma's just being honorary. That's her way. She's just, in that mode or whatever. And then the same thing with my father. When my mom said I think your dad was going through a lot with his mental and physical aspects of that. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the past, but my mom was his fourth wife. So, my dad was kind of older when he had me and my older sister. He was in his late 40s, early 50s, but, he'd already lived a life of 3 other marriages. So, and then being, African American, dealing with severe diabetes and high blood pressure and all that jazz, and then being an aircraft engineer for Northrop Grumman, during those times and all that stuff. I think all that took a toll. So by the time we came along, I think his body was slowly doing the aging process, disease, decay, all that stuff. And he cut back on a lot that he used to. So she kind of explains the different things, and I'm just like, okay, I put that into perspective. And, I took it for what it was, and I can just, remember the good things that both my grandmother and my father did for me in their own way. And then that was pretty much it. Came home today, rested, school, work, and then got ready for our call this evening.
Good. Yeah, in regards to your situation, I had to step away from this case because of what the father told me. This is one of the most, in my life, this is one of the most heartbreaking case that I have ever worked as a social worker and an interpreter, of which I witnessed and was there for the child's C-section birth. And so I watched the child born, and then the mother shipped the child to Vietnam to stay with the child's grandparents. And later the father emerged 4 or 5 years later and told me, she's not a very good mother. She doesn't even love the child. That's why the child is being sent to Vietnam. I have no saying in it. So when the child came back 9 years total out of the country and was enrolled into school here locally, and the child could not speak English because being out of the country for so long, that information in my head, I just could not work that case anymore. It did not line up with my values, and that's why therapists and doctors can refuse to treat if it does not align with their values, and I just could not believe it. So I just don't know how this child's going to grow up to feel. Obviously, not being there with the primary caretaker, with the mom, how that child adversely affect her growth and development. So it's kind of messed up. And then the other thing is, I've got students here, so understanding the mind is that we also create a lot of stories that is absent. Another one of my assistants' father died in a car accident. But the student really took it really, really, really far. Really, really, really far. Took that loss very, very personally. I mean, to the extreme. And I have reason to believe the student created a lot of stories in one's head about the death and the manner of death. In conjunction with that group, I also responded to a possible suicidal teenager. And by the time I got there and listening to 2 hours later of listening to the story, and I'm able to start narrowing it down, and I said, what I got from all of this is you're just really angry. You're not suicidal, you're angry. But all their friends around them thought that this kid was suicidal, whatever nonsense this kid was saying to the friends, thus leading to me having to run all the way down to Safety Harbor an hour away. I don't know what it's like to grow up without one parent. I know that I grew up with both parents, and they're not the ideal image that I would hope that they would be. And so when I teach it to people, I tell them, from the collected stories in my life, is that we have the ability to think, and we do personalize things, and we always crave the need to know. I needed to know if she actually loved me. I needed to know if he actually loved me. Novice Lee was adopted. I have all of his adoption paperwork. Former Novice Lee was a case study. He came to me with a big pile of paperwork that thick, and I photocopied it, even laminated it, to see if I can reprogram this human to let go of everything that has happened to him. He's 21, 22 years old, a baby. And I approached it like a baby. It's two things. I approached it that he's a baby in a sense that I could work on him because I'm the young venerable father. But I also approach it that maybe I can reprogram also because I'm I'm thinking AI. The Dhamma can do that. Psychology can do that. You know, you can reprogram their mind. Venerable Lee was one of the greatest project of my life. As a monk, the bravery and the courage to take on such a heavy clinical case with active parents being alcoholics that I got to meet and counseled, just the chaotic world of Venerable Lee and how he turned out to be was an absolute clinical miracle, you know. So I hope that down the road you all learn to do that, to learn to let everything go like me. And sometimes having dementia is a wonderful thing, by the way. Alzheimer's is some things we don't want to remember, I'm telling you. And I had to basically train my mind to not remember certain things anymore. Like, you know, losing loved ones. I've lost loved ones since I was young. I fell in love when I was very young. I also lost people that loved me and I didn't know how to love them, and before they died, I had one question. No, it was a I did. There was one question that I asked one of them, and I says, "Listen, listen, listen to me. I didn't know that you have a double life sentence from God, and we're like in hospice." And I said, "Listen, listen, listen, listen. I was young when we met. Right now, right now, I need you to tell me that you forgive me. Right now, because half of this person's face was paralyzed, and this person also had brain cancer." And another death sentence, which it's too clinically sensitive to lay out the diagnosis. But all I knew was at that moment, and then this person called me and said, "I'm in hospice." What? "I'm in hospice." And I flew into hospice. And this human had 1 week to live. So I'm glad I asked that question. And I took one picture. And this person was cremated. And I don't even know where to visit. I don't even know where the ashes are. So I had to use the teachings of the Buddha and clinical psychology to really comfort myself, to make sense and meaning of the death and separation, separated from loved one. Right? That's first noble truth. And yeah, you know, so science says, or at least Facebook says, that human will reach immortality by 2050. I am not interested, and I will not be on that list. I am not interested because I spent so long learning to reprogram my mind for peace, all in the name of peace, to let go, to forget and forgive and forget, the two things that humans always battle with in their head. Battle in their head. Okay, go, yes, Leo, go ahead. Before you we're gonna get kidnapped by your neighbors. Go ahead. You're muted.
I can save my comment for later because I'm worried that my comments might open another worm of cans, and I don't want to take up everybody's time. So if we have time in the end, I'll share my comment. But
You can share it now.
I feel like
we don't have Steve today, so we have plenty of time. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, on the topic of how to sit with loneliness, the method that I have kind of come to adopt to is, and this is definitely in line with Buddhism, I think, is that the suffering, if we want to call it suffering, the suffering from loneliness stems from the belief or the narrative of the separate self. And, in this case, the separate self shows up as a wave of loneliness, and the path back to your true self, the ocean, the ocean that makes up the wave, is one, that understanding, realizing that this loneliness is a temporary state. This isn't who you are, but this is a thought and a feeling that is passing through you. And that one of the characteristics of this wave is that it's really persistent, and it makes you think that it's real. And the trick is to realize that this isn't real. So then the next question is like, what is real? It's like, oh, right, this wave of loneliness is just like any other wave of feeling, like excitement or happiness, or the feeling that you are when you're with your parents. And all of these things are passing. And so what is actually real is the awareness. And the awareness is like, it feels, I wish I had a better way to articulate this, but it feels more real. It feels more encompassing. It feels bigger than any other passing wave or thought or emotion. And I think there's many ways to get to that oceanic feeling. But, you know, I think like placing my hand on my heart and, you know, imagining like, okay, so I'm alone and I feel lonely. Like, what do I want? I want to be with my friends or with my family. It's like, okay, sure. And I imagine like, what would it feel like if I was with a partner or a family or friends? And like, I would feel like settled. You know, I would feel relaxed. I would feel, and I just kind of like imagine what it would feel like. And then I just sit there and I feel it. I feel the oceanness, you know, kind of like like holding the loneliness, like it surrounds it. It just holds it like a soft hug. And that makes me feel really special. Not special, like, what's the word? I don't know, like, just content. And yeah, so that was my kind of like my thought process on how to digest loneliness.
You know, when I reflect back on the past, so 10 years as a monk, for the past 7 years, I'm looking back trying to reconstruct, and I'm like, wow, those years were really lonely from a human understanding, looking in. But those 7 years was nirvana to me, because here's the trick. Here's how you battle. Here's the antidote to loneliness. Because every day I woke up, and every moment and second was thinking about other people. So there was a sense of connectedness to all of you. Matter of fact, it was really rough. People don't understand how rough my 7 years was. And there was one picture that was taken, because there's a bunch of pictures that was taken. But there was one of me standing by the river looking up like this in the same dark brown robes that you see here. And I looked like I was 15 years old, because of the cellular changes in the body. This the heightened joy, the oceanic joy, the bliss of joy in just thinking about other people. Then I'd like had no time to think about my own loneliness, had no time to think about my own sadness or my own first noble truth. Just totally everything's went out the window when your life is comprised of the aspect of service. That's just why in the Hindu, Think Like a Monk, like Jay Shetty, who wrote the book, emphasizes service. Every religion emphasizes service to humanity. You forget about yourself. In its core and essence of loneliness is that we started to turn inwards. Me, mine, I. Why do I feel this way? I want to be with my friends. There's the I, and then there's the want. I want to be with my friend. I want to be around family. Which is true. It's valid. It's valid. It's not like it's not valid. What you're feeling, what you're thinking, yes, true and necessary for human survival, because we are social animals. But I have found the cheat sheet on how to beat it. And that was reflecting on my years coming out of the apprenticeship as a monk, and that's all I've thought about. Literally every moment. That's why there's so many contents. If you go back when I was wearing braces, so many contents, and it's like, well, he amassed all these people because he was so happy giving these teachings in those moments, and the people could feel it. You know, so I hope that one way that you will, you know, so I hope that one way that you will find battling loneliness is to take the Dhamma and reteach it to other people, and be of service to your community wherever you are, wherever you're at. How you can serve, how you can spread the teachings, and yeah, this is key. There's no way you can be lonely knowing that today I did the best that I could today. I helped so many people today. I thought of everybody else but myself. You know, I've offered my life, my body, speech, and mind for the benefit of other people. Truly did. It's no wonder that became my motto. It's no wonder that became the key central prayer in every meal. Every meal, people are thinking like he's gonna say the same stuff every other Theravada says, but no. I'm like, you know, I give the blessing, yatha varivaha pura paripuranti sagarana evo mewa ito dinang. And then when I'm done with it, and I go, may the food that we ingest today and all the calories that we receive from this food, that we dedicate our body, speech, and mind for the benefit of other people. I'm telling you all, if you just study the words that come out of my mouth for each and every occasion that I sat, you realize that those were the secrets to happiness. You need not to read so many books out there. Follow what the teacher did, because it worked. He wouldn't repeat something if it didn't work. I don't sit there and say things that is nonsense, that is a waste of time and is meaningless and useless and clinically useless. That's nothing worse than somebody sitting there just saying useless things under the capacity of a leader. It's just like, out of all things, out of all books you had done read, this is all you got to say. We wonder why you saying it. All right. So yeah, thank you for breaking that down. Yeah, loneliness can get deep, can get very sad, can get very hopeless. And again, it's up to your creative mind to gather some of the commonalities that all the religions have been teaching you all to do, to feel the actual true source of interconnectedness, to feel the true source of fulfillment, and in the end, it's exactly that. You look at how monks live their life. You know, they go arms round begging for food. At the time that food is offered to the monk, they stop right there and then and they chant. So they've done that aspect part of it, and then they go back to the monastery and they meditate, study, read, and give more Dhamma talks at the monastery, and respond to funerals and pastoral cares and stuff like that. But it's a life of service to the people. And you know, nowadays there are people out there, and when I'm sitting with them too, and they're like, "Oh my God, he is the monk. He is." Like, what, do we call you a John, or do we call you venerable? I'm like, I'm just a monk. I'm here to serve all of you. And they're like so surprised when they hear that, because they think that they have to like schedule and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I'm just a visitor. I came. I'm going to serve. And subsequently, I'm going to leave. So, how can I be of service to you? In what ways can I help? You know, instead of can I help you? You know, but yeah, I find that that one thing, that very medicinal, very fulfilling. Okay, do you have any questions on subject of loneliness? I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of people struggle with loneliness. So recently, you know, I don't think I ever did a one talk on loneliness and just expand on it. So this did it justice tonight. That's being recorded on YouTube. Okay. Go ahead, Jorge. You're muted. You're muted. You want to unmute and let us know how over the past couple of days?
So here's something I was thinking of recently. I was thinking about in Jasper, and they're going to their.
You have low volume. Is the phone sitting on something?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it just sounds like it's being covered by something.
One second. I know what's going on here. How
Yeah, go ahead. Now you're muted. Are you using phone or laptop?
Now I'm using my laptop.
Okay, now you're clear. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Yes. Pardon me. It was a speaker. I was thinking about this when I was in the mass and they were talking about Jesus being born, and then one of the verses I heard was like he died for our sins, and I'm thinking this is great symbolically, but at the same time I'm saying, wait a second, everybody dies. So am I to understand that the reason why that this guy is so special is because he died for their sins? But I mean, if you just take a flip at that for a second and you inspect it, you go, but wait a minute, am I to understand that the people in this room are not willing to die for others? Because the symbolic reason behind Jesus is that he died for his sins, and it's like, wait, but everybody's going to die. So he didn't really do anything too special, because that was going to happen anyway. And the fact that he did it for others would be like, well, wouldn't a noble, a good person do that anyway? Like if a person's getting eaten by a shark or something, you know, and you have a capacity to help them, and by virtue of you helping them, you die, you're still taking the same risk. So I didn't really get like that part. Like, okay, well, like, you know, how is, you know, is the religion founded on the principles of goodness? And if so, Jesus' death, how would it be any different from anybody else just because he gave it up? Anybody could do that.
Here's what I think, and for all the pastors around there and across religion and religious leader, please don't call me out. Just hear me out. It's just what I think, my opinion. Okay, I don't want people to get mad at me. Here's what I think. Oh God, here we go. I swear, I need Secret Service protection one of these days. The Buddha came first, then came Jesus. The Buddha said everything that needed to be said. Okay, the Buddha taught the what, why, and the how. Okay, as your teacher, my job is to test out the teachings and how humans comply with the teachings and how they behave and misbehaves, right? Yeah, you can just shake your head left to right with the masses of the crowd that don't comply, that don't live out the holy life or try to remain holy as much as you can, and they go back to being lazy. They eat, poop, sleep. They commit crimes. They do what they do, right? So think about it. Whoever wrote the story of Buddha was like, well, let's give it a shot because everyone is tripping right now. So let's create Buddha. Let's create these teachings in details for them to think about, to operate on peacefully. It's in the name of peace, right? Then years and years and years and years go by, and people don't really, the decline of the Dhamma, the decline of Arahants, the decline of humanity. So then somebody needed to create the story of Jesus, which is, you know, everyone needs a hero. First of all, everyone needs a hero. That's why mythologies and sci-fi and fiction, they make a lot of money because people like heroes. Why do you think Superman? Why do you think Batman? Everyone buys all of that, and action figurines because they're like, ah, good defeats evil. So they needed to create a story of Jesus, of which, you know, this man came, and then if you notice in the story of Jesus, he flexes. He flexes. He needed to flex because of what? Ignorance. Because he's like, I'm the Messiah. And they're like, no, you're not. Prove it. And he's like, rise, my child. And the child rises from the dead. And people are like, oh. The evolution of human mind, the stubbornness, the doubt.
Yeah.
The first stage of sainthood, doubt. Comes back to doubt. And the listening skills. Are you hearing Jesus? You know, just study his life. I mean, one of these days, don't do it now. We're in the middle of the Dhamma, but one of these days, just go back. And it's like, people like challenge Jesus. And it's like, are you listening? No one's listening. This dude don't listen today. So in the story of Genesis, you know, God got really mad. And God's going to show you punishment. It's no different than criminal law today. You know, I swear, had it not been for the construct and legislative intent of criminal law, our world would be, you wouldn't. There are students in my program here that came here and told me. And I said, hold on. I want you to tell me again, and I'm going to record it. So when you get out of prison, I want you to hear what you told me that night. And the student repeated himself while I was recording it. And the student says, I have a gun and I have a mask. And tonight I'm going to go over that house and I'm going to do exactly what my sister told me to do because she did it and got away with it. And I'm going to get away with it tonight, Venerable. On recording. And I said, okay, well, obviously I'm not a prosecutor, so you do whatever the hell you want to do. And I'll see you when you get out of prison. Don't drop no soap. And say hi to Bubba for me. Go ahead. Have at it. And you know what? And they left my door. And I just cannot believe in my career I would hear something like that. The student was literally in the cage of their mind, wanting quick money, that they were gonna go rob somebody, came here to confess to me. And I have no idea what to do. What am I gonna do? Call the police? A crime hasn't occurred yet. I mean, I'm pretty sure under criminal law it'd be probable cause, but then no one would ever trust coming to the Venerable again. I'm not the police, and that's your karma any darn ways. Like, go ahead, do whatever you want to do. Go ahead. All things will work itself out. The Buddha told me that. All phenomena will work itself out. So, are you gonna get shot tonight, or are you gonna go to prison? So I don't. Either way, I'll be there. If I get a call from Northside Hospital, I'll be there. Or Global Tellink. I have an incoming call from John Doe, an inmate at the Pinellas County Jail. To accept, please press 0. I get all of that all day. Okay. So, the Bible was written very skillfully to scare the hell out of these people. The Bible was written in such a way. So, but yeah, if no one dares to declare that Jesus is not real. And if he died for our sins, it helps people with loneliness. It helps people with loneliness. It helps people feel that someone loves me. I don't have a father. But our great Father up in heaven loves all of us. He died for us. He sent his Son. It's like funny. The word God is broken into 3. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's like all 3 men in one. Like, who? Where? How? Right? But again, it's for the psyche to understand, or at least grasp the concept that someone died for me. Someone gave me a reason to live and to be of service to others and to not waste my life in taking my life. It's a sin if you take your life. It's a sin if you take your life in both traditions, in both Buddhism or Christianity. You know what I'm saying? In both religion. So, the story of Jesus have saved so many people around the world who are lost, who have no answers, and the potential and likely chance that they are incapable of understanding the Dhamma. So they have to jump somewhere to make sense of their life. Not everyone is, but there's a small number that does incapable of understanding the intricacies and the mechanics of the Dhamma, and they need a quick fix. And the quick fix is, he loves me, I live for him, he died for me. He died for me, I live for him. I had a ring that said that. I had a ring that said that on the inside. I grew up Catholic and I needed hope. I had that ring and I took it out and I looked at it. I was a very suicidal man, remember? I had a Glock 17 with 17 bullets in it. And every night I looked at that gun. And then every night I looked at that ring. And I looked inside of that ring. He died for me. I live for him. He died for me. I live for him. So it's reprogramming the brain. Finding a reason to live. To buy time to figure oneself out. Finding God, you found yourself. Find yourself, you found God. So again, there is tremendous clinical benefits in the Christian world with democracy, with women. How Jesus hung out with women, encountered women often, and during that time when women were not respected, women were not respected at all. So again, women have a voice. It brought respect to women. There's democracy in the story of that. There's forgiveness in the story of Christ. Very basic tenet teachings to hold people at bay so they would stop proliferating evil and anger. You know, and it's like that's why people back in the day, you know, what would Jesus do? WWJD is exactly for that. Which is, you know, before you grab that 38, what would Jesus want you to do right now? And that's why there's symbols of Jesus everywhere. You know, the symbol of the fish that is stuck in, you know how he was at 5 loaves of bread, and he was able to, you know, all the symbols of cross and that all around the cars. You know, I've got Jesus and stuff like that. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So yeah. Anyways, does that make sense? Huh? Good. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Jesus is awesome. Jesus is awesome. They both are awesome. One reason when you all advance, you will need to probably study both, so that you can relate to your humans. Because the next person you meet might just so happens to be Christian. So hopefully you have that part of the brain that I'm trying to share with you also. You know, you don't want to sit there with the next person that you think you're gonna love or is loving or whatever, and be like, yeah, you know, my God is awesome and your God sucks. That's a great way to kill a relationship. You know what you know what I mean? You need to be able to relate. No different than Jorge sitting there. Jorge is Buddhist and Jennifer is Catholic. And I'm over there counseling both of them to try to get them to an even understanding, even down to the rituals of the Mass, of why do they eat the host and why do they take the wine. You know, this is my body and this is my blood, which will be given up for you and for all. Do this in memory of me. Okay, like again, once you eat the darn host and drink God's blood, when you get out, live holy. But yet on Christmas Day, we still got killings. It's supposed to be the most holiest day. Oh, God. You know, Christmas, you know, I wouldn't blame God if he actually threw fireballs like he did in Genesis. Because it's just like God is crying up there and he's just like, wow, y'all something else. You know, you can only imagine what God thinks up there of the holiday shootings and stabbings that on Christmas Day. Like sometimes people forget. Like, okay, so if you were to forget Christmas, that's why we have lights up and Christmas trees and people wearing Santa hats and wearing red. And that's why mindfulness is important, because it's the human's job to forget. Remember I said that multiple times? But even all the lights, all the Christmas lights and red and the Santa hat, they still picked up the gun and says, today I'm going to kill, because anger proliferates, because they never practiced meditation. They never used Buddhism to conquer the anger, the fire of anger. There's no fire like the 3 poisons the Buddha described: anger, greed, ignorance. Right? That's one hell of an ignorance. That's a blue flame of ignorance. Grabbing a gun, killing somebody on Christmas Day. What one hell of a... And then, of course, it's not just them. It's the families that's being affected every single Christmas. They will now have to live with this trauma. Right. People don't understand the long-term consequences and effect of that. Likewise, I came across DUI, a DUI fatality. A DUI fatality in Florida costs $1 million or something like that, or like, I don't know. I can't. It was probably more than that. It was, and I'm like, what? One death cost that much? Can you donate that to School of Chi Dao? Somebody write me a check. If I prevent deaths, can I get a check? But think about that. Wow. You know, I don't know, maybe the investigative process, the disposal of the body, the law enforcement is involved, medical personnel, the car that's being totaled, like all together, they summarized it that the average one DUI fatality, it was like 1 to 5 million. I forgot what it was. Memory doesn't serve me well. Onset dementia. Okay, so let's go with CBT. Anyone have any questions on CBT? Christine, you don't have any questions on CBT? I know Leo do.
I'm still working through chapter 15, but
Okay.
it's relatively easy, you know, I'm comprehending right now, so no questions.
Okay.
But I think Bree had a question earlier. I'm not sure if you saw her. With her hand up.
What? Well, hold on. Maybe I should back up for a second. If I was God, oh, here we go. It always starts out good when he says something like that. For me, Jidao, remember earlier I told you I was a simple monk. Now, if I was God, for the things that I have witnessed in this lifetime, next year I'm going to start issuing holy orders, which is never seen before, because they just can't stop breaking precepts. And I'm like, now it comes to the point where I'm like, we have no choice. Holy men have no choice but to scare them with hell. So I just wanted to just throw that out there. It's just some of the things that I see. But then, of course, I have to remind myself I'm a monk. I'm not the other side. And my job is just to remain silent, just like the Buddha did, knowing that all things will work itself out. Just don't be extra and don't do too much. Just let it work itself out. But I understand how God feels. I understand his pain, his struggle, and his frustration. The fact that the Bible can't hold things down peacefully the way that it should to ensure world peace, to ensure loving your neighbors and all of the details of cohabitating, just the enormous amount of suffering in the killings, the amount of suffering. I mean, just without the killings, there is suffering. Without all the extra stuff we see on the news, all of us are subject to old age, disease, decay, and death. Already, there's crying already. Nonetheless, there's so many things on the news, like brothers killing each other, biological brothers killing each other. Over money, over drugs, over girls. Mm-hmm. Do it. Or you guys sitting right there with your laptop. Just go, brother kills another brother. Brother kills another brother. Plenty of stories, not one. Then here in Florida, in Orlando, Leo's Asian sitting here. There was a Chinese boyfriend that stabbed his girlfriend, slit her throat, carried her into the bathtub, and sung to her. He was singing to her. And because she took his passport and green card and wouldn't give it back to him. So obviously, immigration law, I'm postulating that they probably got married or fell in love or something weird happened for the wrong reason. And so when she took that away from him, it was a Vietnamese girl too. My people. When that happened, he snapped. Whatever money that was involved, it could be a fake marriage, who knows? You know what I mean? He snapped. Think about it. He slit her throat, dragged her into the bathtub while she's bleeding out, and sing to her. What kind of a sick human is that? 2 new books on criminology that just came out. The first one is A New Evil, and it's this thick. And there are 23 classifications of new evil. I studied some of them, of which grabs the victim. I mean, this is the Rhode Island killer guy who killed like 23 prostitutes, tied them up, raped them. The manner of rapes that happen inside of enclosed rooms, insulated so that when they scream, no one can hear them on the outside. That's how twisted people are. Again, you watch NCIS and all that stuff like that. It's just like, wow. Good luck trying to explain this to God when you die. I just don't know how God's going to deal with that. However, in Buddhism, on this subject of karma and sentencing guidelines, that's why we see more bacteria, viruses in the billions, in trillions, and of course, whatever vocabulary after trillions, quintillions of bacteria, viruses than humans. Human about 8 billion, 8.5 billion, but viruses, bacteria into quintillions. Those are the ones that have been sentenced. Animals, there are more animals than humans. Why? Look at what humans have done. Well, our scripture says humans are favorable rebirth realms. Favorable. Look at all of the unfavorable rebirth realm, like the animal realm. That's why there are more animals, because human could not live out the holy life and keep the precepts, so they break rules, and as a direct result of that, they took those rebirths into the viruses and bacteria in the ocean that have yet been identified. We only know, like, what, I don't know, like 5% or 10% of all of the bacteria and viruses in the ocean. Yeah, those who are swimming now. All right, I just wanted to add that. I don't know why I needed to add that. I just wanted to add that to make it comprehensive into the importance of precepts, in the importance of precepts. And maybe I should complete my sentence by saying, yes, if I ever had the power to be God, I would be sentencing all day, every day. But I'm Buddhist monk. I'm not God, right? But I would hand down, like, you can tell when I started to explain capital life felony karmic sentences, you already know my standpoint on that. How do you sentence this woman that shipped her daughter to Vietnam for 9 years to save money? I just can't grasp some of the things that I see clinically out there in the world. And you know what I mean? So, anyways, we just have to let the real God deal with that. And I can't think too much about it, nor attach on to that idea of punishing people, because it will affect my peace. And so do we. We just have to ignore half the things that we see as a Buddhist and just come back to being Zen and sitting and just wusa and realize that bliss of nirvana. And I hope to bring you all towards meditation, and at the completion of the meditation, that, again, no manufacturing of thoughts of the past or the future, and all the things that you once knew. It's like instant amnesia, which is wonderful. It's like instant free anesthetics. Propofol. It's like free propofol. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's gonna be a. Uh-oh. Leo's phone, I think maybe it died.
Why not? I'm not gonna ask him. Oh, you said, sorry. Leo phone might have died.
I don't have my other phone. I can hear Jennifer whispering. Just ask.
We heard you talk on masturbation, and as we're talking about serving others, what my question is, if you can literally die for masturbating, you're servicing yourself and not serving others. So what is your karmic return, or what is your rebirth lesson from that?
Okay. We went from talking to God, Buddha, to relationships, loneliness, and now masturbation. So I gave a talk on masturbation over yesterday, actually. Automatic human desire, natural human desire, is to have a lot of sex with a lot of people, different times of the day, and with different people. So they're not meant to stay with one. They're meant to just go and procreate and just have a lot of sex with a lot of people, a lot of time of the days. And the fact that we cannot fulfill that sexually leads to a lot of sexual frustration, and thus leading to masturbation and serial masturbation, frequent masturbation, to the point where, so there was a kid that died. There was an article on it. And when you're in a committed relationship, it is up to you guys to communicate intelligently on the subject of sexual intelligence. There's books written on sexual intelligence, and to discover your fantasies, needs, wants, desires. Most of it is actually psychological.
Mm-hmm. So that's true, yeah.
Right? In the details of kissing, touching, lovemaking, just all of the fun that you can have also can be found in the Karma Sutta I think they got that from Hinduism, but the Kama Sutta has been broken down even for gay people, straight and gay people. But it's the art. We've lost the art of being romantic. We've lost the art of communication. Like I said, actually goes back to what Leo was saying earlier about loneliness, about how like I'm telling you, it's like they can't get out of their head. How do you get information? It's like, how do I know you like kissing? Just said, like, how do I know if you like kissing?
Or what do you even like if you don't talk?
Sucking, licking. Let me just say it all out for all of y'all. You know what I mean? It's just like, how am I supposed to know you like holding hands? How do I know if you like flowers and stuff like that? And so it's a terrible communication is a terrible thing. I think everyone should just get at least a master's degree in communication.
Yeah.
You want to be happy, get at least a bachelor's or master's in communication. Truly.
And then what happens when you're like being used? Like, like, just do it. Just make me come. That's it. Like, that's even worse because now you feel like you're just being a tool.
I just want to get off.
Yeah. Like, I only need you for that.
Sex.
You know what I'm saying?
Sex can be 10 times better. I mean, there's also, by the way, this falls in the context of Buddhism because mindfulness sex, the application of mindfulness in sex and relationships, orgasm. Well, this is a great way to promote Buddhism for all that's listening around the world. Sex can be 10 times great to the 10th power if y'all practice mindfulness together, transparency, honesty. When we talk about nirvana, I also tell people, you want to, heaven and hell, nirvana can be found in the act of sex itself. When you get to know this person, when you're sharing that sacred act together. But it's cheap when they just want to get off, or the other person signals to the other person, I just want to get off, and it's meaningless sex, but purposeless, meaningless sex. It's supposed to create this bond, this attachment, secure attachment. And in Buddhism, I should say temporary attachment, temporary fun. And even the Buddha says that if both couple practice the Dhamma and practice right together, you'll be reunited in heaven together. Okay? So that's comforting to know. Whether that is...
I never knew that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, if you practice the Dhamma together, right. And that's why the Four Noble Truths is important for all parties involved to internalize truly, because then I'm telling you, everything will be explosion of nirvana, of the experience of living together, loving together, mindful couples. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I was going to open an OnlyFans account and teach mindfulness sex there, but we're not gonna say who. But somebody from our blissful beginnings that came called me out on it, and I'm like, well, out of millions of followers, only one person called me out on it. So I'm just gonna say no. Imagine that. Out of the ratio. And I signaled it to everybody. I says, if you have any objection, now's a great time. Every time I do something controversial, I said, y'all have the ability to object. You all are lawyers, beginning now. This is what I want to do, and this is why I want to do it. But I've already thought it through. I've already done a lot of research. I mean, I'm Undercover Monk. The Undercover Monk program is that I actually dive into the stuff that people dive into, all the weird stuff people dive into, to understand the sensual pleasure part. And I'm like, well, all the subscriptions y'all had done got. Then all of a sudden you see G-Down subscription right there, and it's like, oh, now it reminds you of the middle way. Not too extreme of something. And by the way, stop subscribing to them. Subscribe to me and donate to Buddhism. Damn it. So, anyways. But yeah. It's tough being human. This just falls under the package of being human, love, relationships, sex, and loneliness. And this is why I hope to cultivate you all to be the best you, and you go out there and the people that you will love will feel the difference Trademark, the Chi Dao difference. And you spread this love and joy, and hopefully they are magnetized or learn from that, and then they too also preach about mindfulness and the application of mindfulness. A lot of people don't talk about this. I freely talk about this because it's a taboo subject in the world. It shouldn't be. One of my novices who is 13 has a girlfriend and failed to disclose that to me before he was ordained. So I'm like, child, if I was God right now, oh, there was steam coming out of my ears. And I was like, you didn't think to tell me that? And I'm like, well, guess what? Don't let her touch you. Don't touch it. Don't wink at it. Don't talk to it. I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, remain holy while you were in robes. Oh my God, I was so mad. So, if I have 12, 13-year-olds that are potentially sexually active, and just the things that they tell me, the fantasies that they share with me at that age, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, Latinas, huh? And then they show me with their hands, and I'm like, I didn't even know what all this was when I was your age. I just wanted a Snickers bar. And now you're telling me what kind of shape body women, hourglass body? What? Oh. Oh, I just wanted to reach Nirvana right away. Some of the things I hear, my holy ears. Oh. All right, moving on. Anyone have any? I can never come back in this lifetime as a human. Just please pray for me. Pray for me this holiday that I reach Nirvana at age 80. And that's 80 is a long time. So, all right. Feel the pain. Feel the struggle. The struggle is real. All right. CBT questions. Wait, did I do that justice for Jennifer? Did I answer you effectively? Sometimes I just go on a rampant and I forgot the quality of my answer for a student. Jennifer, are you satisfied with the answer? You have 30 days to appeal. Your motion is denied. I can't read her mind. I'm just throwing stuff out. Okay, if not, we're going to move to the life of Buddha. Okay, Christine, you have questions on the life of Buddha?
Yes, I have one question. It's on page 184. Last paragraph at the bottom. It starts off where it says, whatever in this world with its deities, is it to be seen, heard, sensed, cognized, or reached, sought out, and encompassed by the mind, that I know, that I have directly known. Now, while that is recognized by a perfect one, he nevertheless does not use it as a basis for conceits. Were I to say of all that I know it not, that would be falsely spoken by me, and were I to say of it that I know it and know it not, that would be the same. And were I to say of it that I neither know it nor know it not, that would be incorrect on my part. So having seen what can be seen, perfect one conceives no conceit of what is seen. He conceives no conceit of what is unseen. He conceives no conceit of what could be seen. He conceives no conceit of any sphere. Having heard what can be heard, having sensed what can be sensed, having cognized what can be cognized, he conceives no conceit of any cognizer. A perfect one, thus equipoised towards things seen, heard, sensed, or cognized, remains thus equipoised. And there is no other equipoise that is beyond or superior to that equipoise, I say. That whole passage confused me to the third power. Can you please explain it till I comprehend it better, please?
Yeah, let me send this to everybody first, because the other thing I found out, that this book is not that comprehensive. It just takes things out of the sutta, and sometimes it's What's going on here? Christina and Bree. So,
I think I know.
so now, hold on. Let's see here. You give it a shot. Go ahead.
Sure.
I'm pulling up the citation so I can make sure I give.
So, whatever in this world with its deities is to be seen, heard, sensed, and cognized or reached, sought out and encompassed by the mind, that I know. So basically, he's saying he's enlightened. That I have known directly. So by first-hand experience, he already knows. Remember, the Buddha is the one that knows. Now, while that is recognized by a perfect one, that's the Buddha, he nevertheless does not use it as a basis for conceit. In other words, the non-self. Because conceit, anything of conceit would be investment in this I, which is nothing but, the five khandhas. Were I to say of all that I know it not, that would be falsely spoken by me. In other words, if I were to tell you that I didn't know, I'm lying. And if I were to say of it that I know it and know it not, that would be the same. So like he's just saying the same thing differently. And were I to say of it that I neither know or not know, nor or know it not, that would be incorrect on my part. So having seen what can be seen, a perfect one, or Buddha, conceives no conceit of what is seen. He conceives no conceit of what is unseen. He conceives no conceit of what could be seen. He conceives no conceit of any seer. Having heard what can be heard, having sensed what can be sensed, having cognized what can be cognized, he conceives no conceit of any cognizer. Basically, the non-self. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the fact that with all these different, the khandhas, that's why he's saying seen, heard, sensed, cognized, or reached. Having sensed what can be sensed, having cognized what can be, a perfect one thus equal. I don't know what that word means. Equiposized towards things seen, heard, sensed, or cognized remains this equipoised. I don't know what that means. Well, I'll have to look it up. And there is no other equipoise that is beyond or superior to that equipoise, I say. So I guess we'd have to look up this word because I don't know what that word is.
Balance of forces or interest.
What is it?
Balance of forces or interest.
A perfect does balances forces of interest towards things. Right. So there you go. Because he doesn't. So the middle way is not the two extremes. And that's if that's what that means, then that. And there's no other equivalent. What other word can? Let me ask ChatGPT what other word I can use besides that. What other word?
So far, the way you broke it down made a whole lot more sense than what they put in this passage.
Yeah,
just the first part, enlightened aspect of self, God, self, the middle way, just that is easier to comprehend. But
balance, steady, stable. So basically, a perfect one does balance towards things seen, heard, sensed, or cognized remains thus balance. And there is no other balance that is beyond or superior to that balance, I say. Yeah, so that's what he's talking about, the middle way. And the perfect one is obviously him, and he's basically talking about he's not going to say he doesn't know, because he does know, because by first-hand experience he now knows. He can no longer withhold this information, because that would be him, that would be fall under the false speech precept. So that's how I got it at when I read it.
Is this like concerning, about whether, I forgot where, but like I remember reading like my goodness words, like how pointless it is to be right, essentially, and all the bickering that happens about conceptual rightness, and then he's like, ultimately it doesn't matter. So just be chill with.
What it matters, because it's not about conceiving. It's about first-hand experience. That's what he says in the second part. He says, recognized by a perfect one. In other words, it's one thing to make sense of something in your head. It's quite the difference when the thing. That's why the Buddha says you have to test this out for yourself. I'm only showing you the tools. It's up to you to build, the way towards your first-hand experience. Because there's a way difference between when you experience lying and just like, oh, lying is wrong. Like nobody's gonna stop lying because it's wrong. Because if people stopped doing things because they were wrong, we wouldn't be here right now. You have to actually know what the consequences of being wrong. I mean, excuse me, of lying, and the consequences, not just how they affect you, but how one lie can impact others, and then by watching you lie and let's say watching one conduct themselves in this behavior, now lying is spreading, which causes like right now we live in a world where we're all equally crooks. Because if it wasn't so, we wouldn't have to lock our doors, right? If everybody shared, and this was the prime, like, you know, the foundation of our culture, then you wouldn't have to lock the door. You wouldn't have to be safe. This is a problem with attachment. Is now you get something, your mind wants to now, like a cyclops, zone in on it, whatever it is, whether it's an idea of you, a new car, diamond ring, whatever it is. It's a physical component, but your mind clings on it. You're like Cyclops, and now you want to possess it. And then once you possess it, now you want to safeguard it. You want to protect it. You want to kill people. You know, like, and then it's silly because we know from the first noble truth that it has to end. So it's like, oh, I'm safeguarding, but you're gonna lose it anyway. So you went and did all that mess, so that in the end you pay. And when you pay, you got to pay. It ain't like the bank where you can just, hang up the phone call. This is real pain right here. That's why we're in the body. That's why you have pain. Whenever you experience discomfort, remind yourself how uncomfortable it is to be human. So that the reason why you're in that body is because of desire, because of past decisions that we've made, guesses towards, this sense of self that dies, that ends. So the investment is like, poof. Like, that's why the Buddha says it's like a fog. It's like it comes and then it goes. Like, it's not that it's not real. It's real because you're feeling it. You're in a sense realm with five senses that feel. You must feel, and they're not working at the same time. If you notice that the consciousness only arises at one at a time. So when you're seeing something, there's the contact consciousness. And there's the attachment, right? You're now attached to pleasurable sights. And what is an unpleasurable sight? Maybe a death, maybe a piece of dung on the floor, whatever. Actually, the Buddha compares anything in this realm as, oh, look at like a millionaire. He comes out with his fancy Maserati. He has to ride in the same street I do. So I mean, like he said, like the Buddha says, oh, my bowl of dung is bigger than your bowl of dung. That's all what we're saying, because that's all it really is. And so we invest in these material things. And the same thing, like with the loneliness, like you have to consider what the value of lonely, like what is lonely anyway? Like even if you felt contented with others, you're still investing in an outside realm, like the outside part of you. The internal journey is the one that matters because that's the foundation for everything external. What drives your desire to not want to be lonely? Not you, but what drives one's desire to not be lonely? That's more important than not being lonely. Because every time it's not going to be possible that every time you won't be lonely. It's not going to be possible because it's based on conditions. And some of those conditions you inherited due to previous actions that you're not going to remember. You know what they are based on what you're living now. So what you're experiencing now determines, oh, what I've done. Okay, so I'm living a little good because look where you are right now. But then the Buddha says, well, now that you know, keep going. Don't stop. And remember, don't invest in this self that dies. That's not going to go anywhere. You're not cultivating anything with that. Matter of fact, you're just causing more of a mess. That's all.
I can retire now because I have Jorge to explain for me. You guys understand all that? I concur and agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look forward to me saying that more often. Next question.
That was my only question for Life of the Buddha.
Miss Bree?
So I didn't have a chance to read anything new while I was with my family, but I did a lot of time reviewing. And one question I was thinking of while I was kind of meditating during Christmas Mass, and I was just I wanted to pose the question to you, Venerable. So I was meditating a bit on deep definitive rising, and I just kind of started pondering, not so in a situation not where someone loses a sense while they're alive, but if they are born lacking a sense or more, would you think that they would have an easier time of becoming enlightened because they have one less sense that's clouding lack of ignorance? Or do you think it would actually cause more suffering because they're hearing the world around them talk about these things and they want to be able to, sense this as well, and they can't? I was curious what your thoughts were.
Knowing thyself, knowing your weaknesses and strengths, working with what you have, not clinging and attaching onto things, purifying your mind, one can become an arhat. Lack of, matter of fact, the more sense you lack, it's like, wow, great. It's like, huh? What? Huh? Huh? And the challenge comes when we have what we have, like these satellite dishes, where I can hear Jennifer says, "Ask him, ask him, ask him." I can hear how Jennifer breathes through these satellite dishes. You see some people in society, like they hear certain things and they think it's them. Or the analogy of a frog. The frog's trying to jump up, going from the base of the tree all the way to the top. And, a bunch of these cats or lizards or whatever it's around, and they're like, "You're a loser, dude. You can't make it. You're a frog. Who do you think you are? You can't make it." But the frog is deaf. So he just keep on going. That's us in this life. Look at how many people told you all that you can't do what you do, or trying to tell you what to do. And you're like, "I don't remember asking." Felicia? So it's about working with what you have. And monks, eventually we lose these senses anyways. As you get older, like my teachers, like when I had to come and pay respect to them, they're like, "Ha, ha," and have to actually put on their earpiece. And I was like, "Oh." So I have to like talk a little louder. That's all you have to revert back to in your old age. All your senses will go. Before you die, you're gonna realize that your breath becomes very different. And just before you die, things are gonna get real blurry. And then everything would just sound very distant. You're clocking out, girl. The purple team is in the room. So you're on your way out very quickly. And the breathing is what determines how much minutes you have left. And that's it. In those moments, I need you all to let everything go. People, places, and things go. And boom. So what you were start out with and what you end with. If you started out, with deficiencies, you got to work with those deficiencies and make sure that you understand the Dhamma in such a way, right? And having comprehensively understand the Dhamma, eventually you will resort back to what you understood and is reminded of, and at the moment of death, you let it all go, and you become an arahant. In your old ages, you're going to be old and grumpy and deaf and blind. You need to pretend like you're going to be deaf and blind. And in those moments, you will now having to resort back to either the English or the Pali of the chants, of the teachings of the Buddha. And why do you think we chant at funerals? I don't know. Leo looks kind of dead to me right now. Maybe I should start chanting Anicca Vata Sankhara.
Oh my God.
Anicca Vata. And funny that you talk about dependent origination, because that's what we chant, the dependent origination, the Pachayo for the funeral chants, the conditioning process, everything conditioned. The pachayo means condition. And then, we start reading off. It's a really long chant. I don't even remember it now, but it's over there. Or I can send you the chants. It's on YouTube. Just put Theravadan funeral chant, and you get the whole thing. It's like 20 minutes. They chant it really fast, but it has to do with conditioned genesis, and it's basically reminding the person that is about to die because they're on their way out. All the chants that we have is all things conditioned. All things conditioned are subject to impermanence. As they come, as they go. It coming to an end is bliss. It coming to an end is bliss. And so, and a person is reminded of that, and they just slowly unshackle. You better find your key and unshackle all the bonds, all the attachments now. If not, you're going to take rebirth now, in this moment, if you attach onto any place, people, ideas, or things at all. So the pivotal moment is that, when you have health problems, or you have cancer or something like that, you have to study and remember the Dhamma even more and let go even more, so that you're just hanging on by a hairline. Whatever it is, it just needs to be a hairline. And at the moment of death, and you realize that, oh, snap, today's the day, and typically you'll know it. I mean, if you've kept precepts good enough, the 2 first stage of sainthood, you enter the 2 first stage of sainthood because of perfect precept, perfect conduct. Okay? And the last 2 is based upon perfect understanding. We call that wisdom. Right. And the refining of the breath. Again, it's the breath that tells you. When you wake up wrong that morning, you know. Whatever it is, you will just know. Because your whole life, you know how you pee, poop, digest, burp, and fart. So when that morning, when you feel that certain pain somewhere in your body, oh, it's not a good thing. And you realize this is not good. This is going to need a CT scan. And, Dr. Gupta is going to walk in here and he's going to shake his head left to right, and So in those moments of alarms, that's when you realize that all the work that I have done to prepare for what's going to happen next, no fear. I'm ready, man. I'm prepared for this. Just no different than a person who is trained to take down an armed intruder. You sleep at night, all of a sudden the alarm goes off, and you have an armed intruder entering your home on the 1st floor. You're on the 2nd floor. What did we teach you to do? Number 1, don't go out looking for them. Let them come to you. Number 2, find somewhere in your corner, put your little bulletproof vest on, and aim the gun at the door. So when they open the door, you just shoot. Okay? So in Buddhism, we teach you all the tactics. In all of the practices, the Brahma Viharas, 7 factors of enlightenment, 8 noble paths, all of that, all of the weapons that you need to defeat death, fear of death, and afterlife, you got it all there. You've lived it. So at those moments, you're just like, I'm ready, man. Go ahead, pull the plug. I dare you. Shit, I'll pull it myself. So, yeah, but yes, I hope that does it. Any other questions on the life of Buddha?
I had one other question that I was kind of reflecting on when you were talking about specifically Jesus having to flex. Could you explain how it's either different or similar when the Buddha was interacting with Urvela Kassapa, and he kept saying, I'm basically more literate than you are, and so the Buddha upping the ante on the crazy stuff, the crazy shit he was doing, just trying to say, I'm better than you. And then finally he was just like, no, you're not. And then the guy was like, okay, cool, I believe you now. Like, was that because they're flexing, or just the Buddha just being the Buddha?
It's hard for us to gauge what happened back then with who he's encountering with. And as a matter of fact, sometimes we do have to flex. And sometimes in your life you will have to flex. As a matter of fact, did everyone see the video that I sent you guys of Dr. Lee George? Let me grab the book. I sent you all a YouTube.
Yes.
Okay, well, this is his book. I ordered it, $31.
Oh, good, okay.
And and he did not flex behind his title down here. It just says, Dr. Kim Cheong Lee George Lee is a lecturer in the Center of Buddhist Study at the University of Hong Kong and a licensed psychologist in the state of Florida. California. He was previously the director of clinical training at California School of Professional Psychology, Hong Kong campus, and the assistant chair of the Department of Psychology, University of the West. That's it. Until you look him up and you realize that he has a bachelor, 2 masters, and 2 PhDs. He didn't feel the need to flex. But, so anyways, depending on the human that is at hand, that is challenging you, sometimes they forget. Sometimes they forget. And, you know, as teachers, you know, sometimes they forget and they have to flex. So, but again, the last sutta that we talked about, knowing and not falling into conceit. We flex to inspire other people. We flex to save them. We don't flex because I just want to show you my credentials and who I am and stuff like that, you know? Jesus flexed, but you have to be careful because after he flexed, you know, they nailed him to the cross quite fairly quickly. And with all of the disappointment, you know, it seemed like he just didn't want to stick around longer. It was a very disappointing world, no different than this world. Look at what we've been talking about so far. This is how disappointment this world is. And I'm like, reaching mortality at 2050, that's a long time. I don't want to reach mortality, you know. And but again, just gauge the ignorance of the person that is at hand. For Febreze situation, someday you may have to flex because your family may push you to that corner. Because look at all of the evidence that it is pointing. My vision of you at the dinner table was that you were in the corner reading the life of Buddha so that they can see that you are to yourself, by yourself, with yourself. Don't bother me. Don't bother her. That's what I was imagining. You know, and you know, flexing is a headache because it takes a lot of mental energy to flex. And then after you flex, you just cannot believe how disrespectful they were. Because if it led to the point where you have to flex, that means they have disrespected and crossed certain lines. So then it creates resentments thereafter with the potential and likely chance for resentment. Boundaries were crossed. It's just, you know, so that's why it's important to gauge ignorance and whether to start and to practice right speech, whether this speech is going to be beneficial for all, and this is the timing right for this. Because sometimes holidays might not be the right time, or elections or post-elections and stuff that's going to be going on in the next couple of days, and you're just like, if I say this, do I think they're going to get it? I might as well just keep noble silence. Yeah, you know, and save yourself heartache, creating karma. Whatever transpire in that conversation may create more karma, and then you're like, you know, I wish I never said that, or you know, so makes sense. Any follow-up questions?
What's the name of the book?
A Guide to Buddhist Counseling. A guide
to Buddhist
and
Kim Cheong Lee. Got it.
King Chung Lee. Yeah. PhD in Buddhist study, PhD in counseling. Which is impressive. It's impressive because that's what I was gonna go after, but I'm like, that's a long time. Like, wow. And by the way, where I sent you all these things because it's the merging of CBT and psychotherapy, and I know how to administer it, but I don't have the academic background to back up the mechanics of into the details of the deployment of it. But I just wanted to satisfy everyone's hunger for knowledge, just in case you wanted to understand your teacher and how he counsels people, and how it will assist you. This is to teach you all to be your own doctor. You know, we're getting CBT right now for you guys is just the baby stuff. Now you realize I'm giving you some real medicine. Yeah. Now we're going to MD in Buddhism. Yes. So yeah, we just have to evolve quickly with that because CBT's been dragging all last year, dragging too long with the CBT thing. We all now have to go into it now. I really hope that everything works out for me to return back to my book. It gives me great hope that 2 authors now, the first author and now the second author upon my discovery, their book is very thin. It's not thick. But in my head, my book Clinical Buddhism, I'm thinking it's going to be like this thick. So I'm hoping to grab some inspiration and some simplicity from this and the other one. I forgot the other author over there, but again, their book is very thin. So maybe I need to, because mine is experiential, theirs is academic. If mine was going to be thicker than theirs, it would be the experiential aspect, of the collective stories of, hundreds of stories of how people suffered and how the teachings of the Buddha, the direct clinical teachings of the Buddha, led them to liberation quickly. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you can hear me. Okay, great. So I just read the second chapter, where he basically just lays down the law here, in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, and all in the theme of attainment of true knowledge. And he breaks it up into 3 pathways. One of them is the development of meditation. The other one is the discovery of the structure of conditionality and impermanence. The last one being in terms of the search for the undeceiving interpretation.
Which page?
Oh, sorry. This whole big thing starts on page 22. It's the second paragraph. This is narrator 1. The enlightenment itself is described in a number of discourses onward, and I have nitpicky questions, but the biggest part is the third pathway, the third attainment of true knowledge, correct interpretation. And I'm not, I get 1 and 2, but I'm not quite sure. Number 3 just sounds very similar to what number 1 and number 2 was saying. So I'm guessing I'm just not understanding it correctly. And I was wondering if you can help me understand it.
Okay. Which paragraph is this on page 23? First
Sorry,
voice?
So it's a big long section that starts at 23, but my question specifically is on 28. About the third path of attainment, which is correct interpretation.
Page 28. And which paragraph? Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs.
Let's say the first voice before my enlightenment.
Got it.
While it's still leading, yeah.
What? To wait to the teacher.
Mm-hmm. All right. Did you ever glance over the 5 aggregates?
I don't recognize that just by the name, but
It's 5 combinations of experience, perception, labeling, feeling. So if you put 5 aggregates into your ooh. Let me grab my cheat sheet here real quick.
Forms, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Just look at 5 khandas, 5 heaps.
My laptop is dying, so I'm gonna get mine.
okay. So, like
But first of all, we have to explain. First of all, we have to explain to you USB-C. Oh, okay, it's working now. All right. We have to explain to you the 5 aggregates. And I thought Lee was gonna fall asleep. He was over there closing his eyes, and now he's asking about the 5 aggregates.
I was imagining what it might feel like to be dead.
He was practicing.
That's cool. That's a good one. That's a good meditation.
He was
Hopefully blissful.
Hopefully blissful.
Whenever I'm quiet and with my eyes closed, I'm meditating, just for future reference.
Yeah, when you first encountered me on the first day, you did that. You were like, when I was talking, you were closing your eyes, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what's happening right now.
I don't know. It helps me to think.
Oh. Okay, so I sent you the cheat sheet to the 5 aggregates there. I just want you to take a minute to just glance over that for
The 5 khandas.
a second. And then you look at the illustration there. Aggregate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this cheat sheet is amazing and easy because it gives the glass wine that you see there. Okay. So on page 28, when the Buddha says, before my enlightenment, and I was still an unenlightened bodhisattva, in the case of material form of feeling, pleasure, pain, perception, formation of consciousness, what is the gratification, what is the danger, and what is the escape? Then I thought, in the case of each bodily pleasure and mental joy that arise in dependence on these things, are the gratification. The fact that these things are all impermanent, painful, and subject to change is the danger. The disciplining and abandoning of desire and lust for them is the escape. So all of our experiences is within the 5 aggregates that you see there. When you see something, you label it. It provokes memory of previous encounter with it. You see the glass of wine. You see something, consciousness of something. Then sensing the object is good. You see, oh, it's a glass of wine. Labeling the object, mental formation. Red wine can make me sick. I like red wine. I will drink it. Mental formation, past volition, and the actions now. The sequence on the bottom left, it says the sequence of the 5 aggregates. Form and feeling senses come together to produce a mental sensation. Consciousness connects form and senses and brings awareness. Perception identifies the object and labels it. Mental formation brings back past memories as wholesome or unwholesome. Volition ultimately makes the decision as to what actions to take. And today we talked about sex, relationship, loneliness. So if you will replace that glass of wine with your ideal girl, I don't know what kind of type of girl you like. Cute face, little waist with a big behind. That would be a great example for anybody. You know, eventually the mind dilutes you into believing that it's gonna seems like it's gonna last forever. Seems like it's gonna last. Seems like she's under your control. Seems like she's not gonna change. And so what the Buddha talked about on page 28 is and everyone has different 5 aggregates of things that they attach onto or they like out there. Some people be chocolate. Some people could be women, chocolate, people, places, or things. But the most importantly is that to remind ourselves that these 5 combining sequence makes up us seeing, labeling, attaching, like it, don't like it, have an opinion about it. And reminding ourselves that no. The 3 marks of existence is the antidote to the clinging of the 5 aggregate. That it doesn't last forever. It will change. He or she will change. Anything conditioned is subject to change. And rarely is it under your control. And by reminding yourself of that 3 marks of existence, that is the escape, which is what the Buddha realized. Page 28. Seeing the dangers, he said. Very profound.
Like that. Sorry, were you?
As long as I do not know by direct knowledge, as it actually is, that such was the gratification, such the danger, and such the escape in the case of these 5 aggregates affected by clinging, so long did I make no claim to have discovered the enlightenment that is supreme in the world of its blah blah blah. So again, it's by direct knowledge. So again, I want you to just rewind your head of these 5 aggregates with anything, with the seashells that you have found on the beach, to the last relationship that you had. You know, what did you the last relationship that you had? You know, what did you label as good and what did you label as not good? What attachment did you have to it? The form, the feeling, the perception. What did you start to form the impression of this human? You know, and how it somewhere down the line you must have fell into fantasy that this was going to last a little long. This there is no danger in this. Everything the Buddha says, you look at the opposite of what he says, and you ask yourself whether you dove into this blindly, not knowing the details of it, not knowing the mechanics and of how all of this worked. Or since you guys are all mature adults and we started talking about sex today and masturbation today, look at the act of sex or body parts, attachment to certain body parts, and sex act, and how it diluted the mind into, wow, this is gratifying, always, all the time. But see, I wake people up when I says, really, sex is always satisfying. Look again. Does it always, the experience is always the same? Do you always get off the same? Do you always orgasm the same? There are fluctuations, there is intensities, there's gradient fluctuations, intensities into the act of sex, the gratifications of sex, whether it lasts, whether, So those are some very real clinical examples that brings the 5 aggregates into application in life. Make sense?
Yes. I understand that, but it just sounds really similar to what the second pathway to true knowledge, which is called like discovery of impermanence. And so to me, like I have a hard time telling like what the difference in the message is.
The discovery of impermanence is exactly that. By understanding the 5 attributes, you realize that these are just sequential, but it happens so quick. That's why you have to slow down. You know, I made a joke one of these times. I really liked one of my professors, but not in that sense. But he made this joke, like, I really like you. It was Bob Nolan, because he was just an awesome professor. I'm like, I like you, and I screamed it out loud. And he goes, "Give it time." So what happens here is that we study this mechanics because things happen so quick. Things happen so quick. You know, it's like you see this girl and you're like, oh my God, you're the type. You start labeling, you start attaching foreign feelings, sensations. Remember, the construct of emotion is guesses. Psychology says the construction of emotion is right, and all this happens so quick. The butterfly feeling, dopamine start releasing in your body. Anyone trained under impermanence takes it exactly as that. Takes it exactly that. Nothing lasts forever. Feeling ain't gonna last forever. You're not gonna see her forever. Eventually, y'all gonna have to go home, and then tomorrow's the next day. That's how you know attachment is that when you like, okay, bye, you know, that was a great movie. Thank you for watching it with me. And she start walking away to her car, you feel a sense of instant loneliness. It's no longer under your control. It's no longer in your world. People are afraid to love because it creates a world that you cannot control. Rarely does it create a world that you can control. And the moment they leave for work, home, school, or something, you just have this ambivalent, ambiguous feeling. Are you going to come back? Do you love me? Some people really text the other one. That's why they get, all the young kids, they get really weird into it. They're like, I texted you. You didn't text me back. Blah, blah, blah. You know, they start possessing obsessions and possessions over it. You know what I mean? Like we all have, you know, including myself. I don't exempt for some of these things. Back in the day, you know, I would be tripping over the smallest things. And I'm like, how silly that I am trying to ask for gray hair at 20 years old for this. So again, you don't, this very simple concept of impermanence. Again, just take it as it is, which is nothing lasts forever. So why cling and attach onto anybody or anything? It is to accept it. Acceptance bring you to enlightenment. Technically, this is all you really need to know if you want to be a saint. That's why the chant for funeral is just that. Anicca. That's the first word. That's it. Matter of fact, that's all I want to hear. Y'all don't have to chant. Just say Anicca. Boom. Enlightenment. Nibbana, Anicca. Anicca, Nibbana. That's it. All of his teaching summarizes to one word. For every thing that happens after we hang up the phone, your next thought, your next feeling, just note that when I wake up, it's gone. When I go to bed, my next yawn is gone. The next blink of an eye, it's gone. We have 70,000 thoughts each day. You chose to cling on to that thought, thus leading to the emotions that you had at hand. That's it. Matter of fact, I should have given this teaching a long time ago, especially with Bree and Christine, who had a very hectic work week with people bothering them and inventory and all this other stuff. And, you know, and you just have to be like AI, you work through it and you just forget it. Like, huh? Again, you're trying to induce dementia, willfully induce dementia, because it's not worth it hanging on to. Look at the headache that you give onto yourself. I cannot believe she came and talked to me over the same shit. It's the same shit. I'm speaking for Christine. My name is Chidao, and I've been a public defender for the past 20 seconds. You know, she look at us. She's laughing. She's like, you know, you tell her. I wish Venerable was right here when this girl come up to me. That's the same shit I done told her to do this the same way every time. Do you not see my face? I'm tired of explaining this to you. Look at Christine. She's dying. She's like, I feel heard, Venerable. I feel heard. I feel seen. I feel understood. Yes, the Dhamma's for me. Hallelujah. She's crying. Are you crying over there? She's like, oh my God. Someone finally understands me. If at all anything, he understands my world. But impermanence is just that, and I think I need the reminder too. That's why I have these groups, because when you guys ask me these questions to the basics, it also reminds me impermanence, emptiness, impermanence. It brings instant joy. It brings instant joy. Impermanence bring instant joy because we no longer attach on. Okay, likewise. Let's talk about tomorrow. See, you guys worrying about tomorrow, but then when tomorrow comes, it becomes today. The present moment. So it's like, why would yeah, okay, yeah, but yeah, you do have to think about tomorrow. Yeah, like, yeah, is there gas in the car? First of all, is there gas in the car? Who am I going to encounter? What time do I have to clock? What time am I going to wake up and brush my teeth again? Every day you're going to be like, yeah, I got to wake up at this time. Check the GPS for traffic, okay? But don't get all worked up. Just enjoy the process too. Like, yeah, okay, I got this down. I got it. What will be, will be. What will be, will be. And so it is. So very good questions. It is, again, I want to bring back the simplicity of it. That's why sometimes some of these suttas, I can't even get complicated with it, because I've trained my mind to be simple in the teachings. You guys are more logical, and so Jorge matches that logical with all of y'all. And sometimes I'm like, you know what, Jorge, have at it. And if it sounds right, oh well, I just give him an A without even looking at the homework. Someone's gonna call me out as a reckless teacher, but who cares? It all falls under the Four Noble Truths. What are you gonna do? Send me home?
Venerable, I was wondering if I could add a little something to that.
Sure, go ahead.
To Leo's question. I don't know if it will help at all, because I was kind of confused by that whole section originally too, and I actually reviewed it while I was, dealing with my family. Perfect thing to review. But the way I understood it is it's speaking on three different, because I've had this conversation with Venerable before. There's my very basic understanding is there's different ways to reach Nibbana, and I think it's speaking on three different ways of doing it. So the second method is dependent origination. I don't know if you've gotten there yet, but
which is
it's very confusing.
It is very confusing. Dependent origination is for like people who get themselves into a lot of trouble. Let's say one of you guys or all of you guys are like sex addicts, okay, which is the ultimate supreme sensual pleasure if you think about it, right? And let's say you feel the need. Oh, man, this is gonna get clinical and sexual, so this is a warning. If you're not old enough, get out on my channel. Don't log off. Oh, maybe I should not use that. Maybe I should just use chocolate. Okay. Chocolate. Get some of the smiles on your faces. Well, I just wanted to be clinically accurate and make sense and useful for the entire world. Damn it. Hold on. Let me look up the 12 links so I can go just briefly over it. Okay. All right. 12 links. First one is ignorance, avijja, right? So we start out with ignorant, and this is going to determine what you're going to do next. Volitional formation, consciousness, name and form. Volitional formation, consciousness, name and form. That's right there in the aggregates. It's the explanations right there in the aggregates. Okay. Here we go. This is name and form. This is cute face, little waist with a big behind. Name and form. 6 sense fields, ayatanas. Okay, that's when this start opening up, all sorts of trouble. That's why you see the image of the Buddha when he is meditating. You see he closing his eyes. Ideally, 90% of the statues he's closing his eyes because he don't want to see nothing. And quite frankly, in life, if you've seen enough that got you into trouble, you realize later in life, when you get older, you realize I'm right, and you realize that, yeah, because I seen this little baddie, I got myself into trouble. because that led to one thing after another after another. Now she's pregnant. Okay. Contact. Oh boy. This is where when you take her to the movie theaters and you start touching her, or just even the arm around her, oh boy. Feeling tone, vedana, feeling, which is pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, vedana. But once the feeling tone, if it's pleasant, then it leads to craving, tanha. Right? And then you cling. And then it becomes. And then it gives rise. And then it dies. And it starts all over again. Over and over and over again. This is a very complicated sequential of getting in trouble with the 5 aggregates and repeating. And this applies to smoking, sex, alcohol, the smell of the alcohol, anything that you can think of. It will come back to the referee. This is the referee guideline right here, right? And if you were to tell me how you got in trouble this weekend, I would tell you, was there craving, was there clinging, was there name and form, did you name something, did you label something, was your senses open? You know, because if you were in your room, quiet, doors shut, meditating, none of this would have happened. But that's why because if you were in your room, quiet, doors shut, meditating, none of this would have happened. But that's why the first thing we try to get rid of is ignorance, avijja. That's why we're studying what we're studying, so you don't fall into the other stuff. Now, for some people out there who got like 20 kids or 10 kids or 6 kids, well, that's because they started off with ignorance. What good happens when you have that many kids at that young age? Or drugs, you know, pounds and pounds of weed, of craving and clinging. What problem does it solve? Yeah. However, I use the 12 links dependent origination for your journaling, because you can see the links because eventually all this is one link after another, one link after another. So the most clinical and most simplest way to teach this to all of you in tracing your past and present and future is, again, that's you only need to remember is just the links of influence. One thing led to another, one BS led to another BS, and then led to a bigger BS, and now we have this big BS that we can't seem to get yourself out of this mess. Anyone who have legal troubles, look at the rules of evidence and reconstructing the past. When someone gets sued or someone gets shot or someone gets killed, look at how the links, the chain of evidence. You know, murder scene, you know, detectives get there, like, where's the gun? Where's the body? Who was here first? What time did they arrive? The body died at what time? They start putting links together. This is links of influence. This link will influence the next link for the detective to make a whole big grand picture. So again, unless you want to be an expert on the 12 links, the fastest and easiest way that I have found to understand this and practice this in everyday life is be careful who you play with and what you play with. Whoever you play with, one thing will lead to the next, and be aware of what it leads to. And when you start getting clingy and touchy, you need to let me know about it. It's no wonder why I asked you about your week, because if you're weak, this is what I'm listening for. I had done met this boy, and that's when my mind goes, oh shit. And he had done took me out, and he took me to the movie theaters. Oh, now it gets interesting, right? Then that's when I start asking questions. Did you hold hands? Did you kiss? Did you get your phone number? Did you text? I start going into details of that, because now there's an active case of dependent arising in a student's life that could adversely affect the way how they learn the Dhamma. Now we have an active distraction. Okay. Does it mean that you can't go out and find love this week? Do whatever you want. It's my job to investigate and make sure you don't get in trouble within those 12 links. Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to have this particular group. Not like, we're not going to mention who, but for others who are involved in relationships, it makes it very hard. Because when they're in this relationship, the relationship takes up 90% of the time. So they have no time for CBT, journaling, knowing about themselves, studying this, or if they study this, nothing registers. because they're worried about the next text message they're going to receive, and they can't sleep well at night, and they can't eat well at night, and it's a complete mess for a teacher like me to jump in, and I just kind of have to wait it out, and it's time that I don't have to wait it out until it ends. Then it ends, then they're butt hurt about it. That's what we call it, right? Butt hurt about it, the depth of their suffering. And they're like, I can't believe she left me and she cheated on me. And now we have a whole wrap of practice of the self. My suffering. She cheated on me. Notice the me, my, and I. You know what I mean? And I can't believe this happened to me. She will never come back. I want her back. Oh, it gets complicated. And I'm just like, yeah, go to psychologytoday.com, go to find a therapist, and at this point, this is where it needs to go, because I can't go into details of psychotherapy with that then, because that takes years to. Once it got to that point of the tornado in their head of clinging and attachment, forget it. Now you belong to LCSW, LMHCs. There's no Ajahn right now. You go and work that out first, and then you come back later. So all of you kind of have a clean slate right now. And even with the clean slate of working, and in the midst of your life, with all the hecticness and noise in your head, you can see how difficult it is to even absorb what we're doing. Nonetheless, having another ding dong in your life. You didn't tell me you loved me yesterday. You didn't give me anything nice for Christmas. I wanted Apple AirPods. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know why there's fireworks. Did I do that?
I was just getting ready to say, am I the only one seeing fireworks? It was cool though.
What just happened?
There's freeze.
Oh, so when you do that, fireworks happen. Yeah, yay. Well, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Oh, it did happen again. Look, that's creepy. Somebody's watching. AI is watching. All right. So I hope that even though I don't object you guys getting relationships for the holiday, just be aware how that could adversely affect the way how you learn. And this is why we're moving as fast. Stop it. Now you're a diva, Jorge. I was waiting for Jorge to do that. It's against the rules for monks to raise their hands above their arms above their shoulder. Yeah. I guess the Buddha don't want us to be like Hitler, so. Really, it's a violation.
Wow.
You saw that one coming really early.
Yeah. So I'm fortunate, and that's why I'm happy when I appear with you guys, because you guys don't give me the headaches that I have. Of course, when I did the talk on masturbation and the talk on whatever other subject yesterday, you see how tired my face is. You see how tired my face was? Oh my God. Because that's what my other young students do to me. Like I have so much energy and happiness to do the talk, but by the time I do the talk and I review it, and I'm just like, wow, why do you look so? Because it sits in the subconscious, actually in the background, that's doing it to my face. The cellular effects that it does it to my face. But I was happy talking to Jorge. Jorge was the one that prompted me on that. You know what I mean? But when I get to this group on the Thursday and Sunday, I'm like, oh, Lord Jesus. I was like, oh, this is my mental break that I need, So again, and of course, and all this is designed to help you deal with loneliness. So you have a sangha here, you have a community here, a safe space that is being created, and so on. Steve couldn't join. Steve's all the way in Ohio. He's got his mom to take care of, and the other stuff. He's diving into it. I'm getting ready to interview one of Jorge's friends. But truth be told, the interview process is going to be a little harder because we're going into the new year. So again, the burden of proof will need to be on each and every single student. You guys got it good. See, Leo got in real good. He got grandfathered in by imaginary law that I created. Policies are going to change. It's going to become very, very hard for people to come in. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they're worthy of the teacher's time, worthy of all of our time. They need to show intelligence. They need to show a willingness to invest into their education. They have to demonstrate that they give more and take less. So there is a very strict, long guideline for people to come in nowadays. I gotta be like, what is it, Dr. Lee Chung George. I gotta get my 2 PhDs and 2 masters. Yeah, I'll be 90 by then. So, but yeah, so try to, and then of course I'm always trying to keep you guys busy, so your mind doesn't jump and play games on you by sending you these information. So, and my ideal image is to try to have you be 70% swimming in the Dhamma, living and breathing in the Dhamma. It will bring joy and happiness to your life if you make it all about it. There's no other philosophy, explanation, understanding, and reading that could fulfill your heart like the Dhamma, because it's so rich. There's nothing in there that cannot solve a clinical problem that you have. You know, so hopefully everyone reflect that deeply and realize that my answer lies in the Dhamma. You know, lies in always in the Dhamma, and always research. You know, Ajahn Chah, Ajahn Mun, Ajahn Lee. Go back over and over again and see if you miss something. If you're still suffering because you miss something, you miss something in their words, or you miss something in my words. Because it worked, all these worked for me, and if it doesn't work for you, I'm just kind of scratching my head like, what's happening? You know, in the most loneliest days of my life, during my formative years, again, I didn't get along with other monks. Other monks were lazy. I just wanted to end my suffering once and for all. That's all I wanted. It was the greatest and biggest desire I had. So I was on my motorcycle. Ajahn Chah was in my ears, and I'm like, what do I need to know? Speak to me. That's it. I had a conversation with Ajahn Chah, and that man, I went a lot. He dead, but he spoke with me. It was a very different conversation. It's so different now that I get a kick out of Pastor. What's the black pastor that I always talk about? Who represented George Floyd? Reverend.
I was gonna say Desmond Tutu, but
Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton.
Yeah.
You know.
It was Al Sharpton.
Every time he ends the mass or the homily that he gives, you know, he with so much energy, he's like, he talks to me in regards to Jesus. He walks with me. He's my shield. He's my food when I'm thirsty. He's my water when he's my food when I'm hungry. He's my water when I'm thirsty. You know, so I feel the same what the Dhamma did for me. And hopefully it can do that for you. You know, finding joy in the Dhamma. Right. So hopefully, you know, this holiday, yeah, it is tough for some of us because we're far away from family, and then of course New Year's coming up, so everyone's getting a kiss and trying to catch an STD except us. Trying, you know, can you imagine the health department at New York City? You know, after, you know, what do you think they're gonna do? They drink, they go out and watch the fireworks, and then they kiss. And what do you think the dependent origination leads to after kissing? Because they're obviously not gonna kiss and then go home and open up the Four Noble Truths and read it to each other. They're obviously not gonna kiss and then go home and be like, darling, this is what Jesus says in Isaiah, or, you know, Ecclesiastes, you know. Right, exactly. So just know that if you are dealing with the holidays, that if you remain abstinence and pretend like, you know, New Year's all great, we have a lot of work to do as a Buddhist for New Year. You have to sit there and intelligently and wisely look at the blueprint of your life. What you did wrong last year, what you did that was not skillful, that was not trained. You know, you all have this probation sheet that I gave you. Who printed that out and filled it out?
I didn't print it, but I've been keeping track of what I do. Right.
And you can, right, we have a lot of work to do, you know? Who's got their 2025 calendar? This is my 2025 calendar that costed $40. The sticker is still on there. So again, we have to plan out what we're going to be doing, how we're going to do differently. More readings, folks. More readings. More journaling. I got to see glowing saint faces coming up this year. Whatever we did that was not working out last, got to exercise more, got to drink more water, got to meditate more, got to get back into chanting. I even had time to go into the chanting thing with all y'all. You see that? So next year, more challenges, and that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. That's it. We don't look at the TV and be like, "Oh, I'm not at New York. I'm sad because I'm not at New York City. I'm sad because I'm not out there watching fireworks or buying fireworks and burning money." Foolish. That's all entertainment. If the Buddha was here, he would say that's foolish. It's foolishness. Sit your ass down. All right. So again, the journaling, y'all need to be on point. I think Christine came in, and then Leo came right after Christine. But you got to know I got to tighten everybody up so that you guys grow fast, quick, success, make more money, better time management, better health. And I want to leave you all with this. My phone, I just had it. Oh, right here. Man, I really like Instagram. Instagram got some good stuff. Time is the only currency you spend without ever knowing your balance. Use it wisely. Matter of fact, let me send these to y'all.
That's a good one. Thank you. That's a good one.
Leo.
Venerable, I don't know. I also get a kick out of Instagram. Sometimes I'll send stuff to Kristen. But there was one that I saw not too long ago that cracked me up and made me think of you. It was, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family.
Yeah.
That's a Ramdas quote.
Yeah.
Okay, so be like water, not luxurious, but valuable for life. That's why we're reading the things that we're reading, because it's valuable for life. All this is coming to your phones, by the way. Never forget, it's a luxury to have zero health problems. So if any one of you are lazy this past year, you got to pass for me. But this upcoming year coming up, I am requiring everyone to exercise at least 30 minutes a day. Year coming up, I am requiring everyone to exercise at least 30 minutes a day. I need my smart, bright, intelligent, good-looking students to last long, to serve humanity. Okay? Right. And then I can't, and when you say I can't afford to invest in my health, it costs $0 to sleep, $0 to exercise, $0 to sunlight, 0 for gratitude, 0 for movement, 0 for breath work, 0 for mindfulness, 0 from digital breaks. Stop the excuses and take care of yourself, says the Post. And 10 biggest health threats: dehydration, chronic stress, binging alcohol, phone addiction, sleep deprivation, physical inactivity, smoking or vaping, poor nutrition, no sunlight, no fresh air, lack of social connections. We already have social connections here. Okay? And then again, your two most valuable asset is health and time. Invest in your health. It will buy you more time. Damn, I should charge y'all money before I did all this. $25 a post. All right. So anyway, so that's what I'm giving you all reasons to look forward to reinvent yourself, to recalibrate yourself. I plan to do all these things because as we get older, every day you're getting older, you have to be more active. You have to fight aging. You have to fight dementia. You have to fight all these, now the new threat for young people is colon cancer, colorectal cancer, because of the oil, vegetable oil, whatever the hell oil that they sell in the market, or the junk food that you're eating is now doing something to your stomach, and young people like in their 20s now getting colorectal cancer. So all those doctors of surgeries looking forward to cut a portion of your intestines. It's gonna get nasty. So again, the importance of looking young, feel good, look good, with all of the available science that we have. And so again, redirect your attention to what is most important at hand. And set the stage and example for the world to see, because the whole world is waiting for you guys to bloom. I'm waiting for all of us to bloom by like the end of next year or even in June. The Rinpoche needs to come. He's going to give us a whole lifetime lesson of teaching, and then we use that as momentum to try to get through this in 1 year. In 1 year, the last talk you missed the last talk, Miss Bree, but I resolved all of my suffering in 1 year in 2017 in silent meditation. So that's the great challenge for some of you. I mean, look at Venerable Lee. Venerable Lee was adopted, had all these past issues, and I was able to resolve his life in 7 months because he was here with me. And so is Jorge here with me. And the things that Jorge and I share, you guys don't ever get to hear. But Jorge took everything that he learned here with me in this room, and how it greatly assisted him moving forward in his life. And that was what that did it. I'm like, dang, if I can affect one life, I done did my job. But look at so many lives that's being affected here. And I wish that I was a millionaire where I can just afford your bills and just grab you all and put you all in this room. Because within like 6-7 months, you all would have been world-class students and then became world-class teachers. I teach the things that you just need to know so that you can go out and make the connections that you can and you want, when to make connections and when not to make connections, when to return back to yourself, when to live your fullest, and when to stay quiet and just be at your own peace. That's all I teach. That's it. Suffering and the complete ending of suffering. So tonight stretches a little longer because it's the new year, and I know a lot of emotions might run high from now until New Year passes. So I need to give you all this great information. So buy one, get two free tonight. Any other questions you guys have before we wrap this up at 2 hours and 20 minutes? My God. Okay. Thank you for your attention. Everyone looked bright.
Thank you, everybody.
There was no yawning in between 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, Bria, glad that you're back. We missed you twice. So,
I know. I'm glad to be back.
We'll see you next year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to all of you. I will be here. If you need me for New Year, if you get lonely, you need to talk to somebody, bother me, because I'm doing nothing but trying to figure out next year's thing and going through Dr. Kim Chung Lee and the other book that we have so much books.
Kim Chung Lee was good. Yeah, that was a good talk.
Yeah, so if you miss his talk, go back to the link that I sent you all. This is how I know life is hectic. Because, usually you'll be like, yeah, I was listening to it while I was putting these boxes away. Yeah, I was listening to it while I was doing laundry. I was listening to it while I was doing the dishes. Yeah, I'm waiting all day to hear that. I hope you guys know that, right? That's what brings me joy when you guys tell me that. See, Kristen, she's got that thing in her ear. Yeah. See, Bree's got one too. Where's your... What the hell? What have y'all been doing? Y'all be talking to y'all exes. What the hell? I need to put cameras in your room. No, I'm just kidding. I'll never do that. But that's the point. I mean, okay, maybe I'm the one that's only doing it. When I'm taking a shower and I'm doing something and I'm folding my robes, guess what? I'm listening to all these talks out there and I'm just wondering why maybe I'm the only one that does it. But that's how you progress. And the point of sharing the motorcycle and the ear thing was, you see? So I resolved my suffering in 1 year, and then there was another year where I realized I needed to download all of Ajahn Chah, all of it, as much as I can get from the internet. So use technology wisely this coming year. Use that right there to serve you well. However, $100 you pay for it, $200, you better get your maximum benefits out of them by listening to the Dhamma and things that I'm sending you, because I'm trying to give you a message. I'm trying to give you homework without having to enforce it. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be like, hi, I'm just, I was just wondering if, this is pertinent for you, this whole thing that we're doing. So hopefully you guys go back to it and listen to it, because it will make sense when we actually open these books up this coming year. Now, the good thing is it's very thin. So it's going to greatly assist you in understanding it comprehensively if you listen to the guy to understand his tone. What is it that he wants us to know? So I've already screened him, and I'm like, good, you make sense. You make sense to my students. then when we actually go through the readings, you're going to be fully enlightened, so academically enlightened. I'm at 2 PhDs. You think we're going to get dumber by reading and finishing this book? No. You know, we're going to get some unofficial, off the record PhDs of ding, you know, Buddhism. And the guy is Korean. Out of the PhD in Buddhism he got, I don't know what he got, but when he talks, he says Nibbana with a B, Nibbana, and he cites Pali. So he studies from the Theravadan order, and he stands for it, and he talks about it. He doesn't talk about the other stuff, because that would have been a turnoff if I found out he got 2 PhD, one in Buddhism, and it was like Mahayana, and I would have been like, bleh. Just saying so. This, because then it would have been confusing, because then the whole book would have been through the informed lens of Mahayana Buddhism and psychotherapy, which is not what I'm oriented in. And it's confusing to me. So anyway, so again, I'm just reviewing this book. This book will come later. Let's go through the other book, the smaller one over there. So again, CBT, come on, folks. End of this month, that's it. January. Okay, you guys have until the end of January to finish CBT and the Life of Buddha. That's it. End of story. So compile all your questions so we can get through them, so we can move on to the next one of that. Okay. And technically, in 1 year, you should be able to read up to 8 books minimum. 8 books. I think the millionaires are like 8 to 14 books a year. And I did that. What did I do? I did like 12 books in 2017 when I was working on myself. Silent meditation. It's like, what does he do? Oh, you have to. I got the whole list of readings, so I'll be releasing that to you guys. That is classified. It's not really that classified. I just want to make it sound important. I just want to be extra. But everything I did in 2017 was handwritten, and I already scanned it. So I just need to just send it to you, your email, and then that's when you can start the reconstructing his life. Yeah. Buddha cheat out life. Hey, good night. You guys can say bye to each other.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Be
Happy
safe.
New Year. Yeah.
See you next year.
Born over
Yes.
See
For-
you next year.
Born
See you
over
next year.
Drew said it. I'm being sincere. Bye.
I'm gonna ask
Bye-bye.
what impermanence means later.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's real.
You better hit replay on this recording on my YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll just ask you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Take care. Oh, Lord. Oh, 3 hours of sitting. Let me see what's going on here. Some of these comments on YouTube. Just trying to glance through them. I know I couldn't answer them, all of them, for all of you. I just have to, just because I have to focus on all these humans in front of me. But thank you for all being wonderful listeners. And I'm quite dramatic when I'm talking to my group. I keep them engaged. I keep them, kind of like, huh. So anyway, I have nothing against Mahayana Buddhism. It's just that I need to stay on point with the Theravadan first before we start making any comparative studies. So I don't want people who are practicing Mahayana out there thinking that I am prejudiced or biased or whatever. Okay, I'm just chilling right now, like all of us. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for being wonderful listeners, a willingness to learn the Dhamma. Any one of you can join our group if you like. An interview is required, so I make sure you're a real person, real intentions. Feel free to reach out. The number 1 Vietnamese interpreter at gmail.com. The number 1 Vietnamese interpreter at gmail.com. All of the links are on my social media. So don't be a stranger. I'm chilling, hanging out, looking forward to meeting new people for the new year. So again, if I don't see you all, or you guys don't see any live sessions from now until then, things are going to move quite quick. But I will strive to go live, to serve those who don't have families, are feeling lonely, want to learn more, want to meditate more, and leave the other stuff, the entertainment stuff, to the entertainment world, to the news and stuff like that. You know, again, Buddhists think differently. We operate differently. It's just another day. Nothing special, Christmas or New Year. Special to everybody else, not to us. We got plenty to do. May you all be well, be happy, be free, and always be healthy. May all of you realize the light of your own true nature. May you all be healed and be a significant source of healing for other people. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.